Excellent. So first and foremost, a very good afternoon to everybody. My name's Ron Maycock, and I am here with Miles Seston. Very good afternoon to you, Miles.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem at all. So Miles is the managing director and founder of Strathon Park Financial, and we're going to be hearing plenty more from Miles in just a few moments' time. Before we do that, though, I really just wanted to explain what the purpose of these interviews actually are. We're surrounded by some amazing businesses in our region. They're each on their own journeys, and they've each got their own achievements and things to highlight and spotlight to everyone else along the way. And what we try and do through these interviews is share their journeys with as many people as we possibly can. And it's done in the name of abundance. So the more people that get to find out about people like Miles and his business, then the better, and the more is the more. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Miles. Miles, do you want to tell me a little bit more about Strathon Park Financials?
Yeah, sure, I'll be happy to do so. So Strathon Park we've been trading for just over 9 years. We started out as a protection only firm, so life insurance, etc. And 2 years into that journey, then became a mortgage and insurance business. Sarah Walsh, who is our sales and operations director, now joined the business, and we've just gone from strength to strength there. Our head offices are based in Tadcaster at Comer House. We do also have an office just outside here near Malton. But yeah, that's sort of us in a nutshell at the moment.
Excellent. And the financial the financial services that you provide, you said that it started with protection. So what's the scope of this, and who's it for at the moment?
So really, our client base is massive. I mean, with the opportunity to speak to anyone and everyone, really, we look predominantly after families, talking in the sectors, with young children. We sort of specialise in that to a degree. Business protection is another avenue we do quite a lot of business in, sort of loan protection. We work in the agricultural sector quite a bit. So we work with quite a few farmers, etc. So there's that also, and really self-employed people again is another biggie, protecting their incomes and helping them with incomes, for the worst case scenario.
Along with that, sometimes it's LinkedIn, sometimes it's not so much, and it's deemed to be a separate thing. Are you involved with any sort of estate planning and financial planning in terms of people's assets and the business?
So we do have conversations around that, and when we get into more estate planning, we send that to a business based over near Scarborough called MoneyWeb. Paul Robinson there looks after all our clients on that side of it. He does a tremendous job. So we don't tend to get too involved in that whatsoever. They're just initial conversations that then we'll say, well, Paul will deal with it after that. Mm-hmm. But in regards to like future planning and what does good look like, we do have lots of those conversations, and we try to do a very detailed sort of fact find on a client to see where they are, where they're at, and where they want to be. Yeah. And then we build everything together off of that.
And when you said about sort of the financial planning and pensions and that sort of side of things, is that for the individual, or can that be for the business as well?
No, also, so when we're speaking to businesses, and what's a good trigger for this, when we get into businesses and we're getting into the conversations around business protection, sort of relevant life, key man, etc. There's often conversations around where are all the pensions sitting, what does that look like, and then that's where that would trigger that opportunity then to get Paul in, and then let Paul do his side of it. But also it very much rounds our service off as well.
Excellent. And in terms of the sort of last 9 years and the products and service offering that you've been delivering, what are you seeing as trends in the market, and where's that leading you?
It's a good question. So obviously the market's been, as you know, we've gone through a pretty crazy time re-COVID, etc. I mean, what we've been very fortunate with, we've built and I feel very lucky about. We've built a tremendously big client bank, so we have over 8,000 clients on our system within our business. That really we've been really focusing on those clients and really looking after them and providing them with a service. As we all know, many brokers get very busy on the front end and forget about the business, and they get that good at bringing in new business that the old business tends to drop out at the back, and they end up going to other places, seeing other brokers. Mm-hmm. So we're very protective over that, and very I suppose we nurse it basically, and maintain that book as well as we can. But sort of where we're going, we're always looking for new introducers and new clients. So we're always having those initial conversations on the front also. And
who tends to be the main introducers? Who do you partner up with that generate the opportunities for you?
That's a good question as well. So we work with a few introducers. So obviously, MoneyWeb would introduce insurance leads back to ourselves. We work with quite a few estate agencies. Willow Green, based in Malton, actually being the main number one of those guys. They do tremendously well. They're market leaders in themselves in the local area. And then we have other sort of general insurance brokers or businesses. Johnson Insurance being another one that would sort of pass leads back to ourselves and introduce clients back to ourselves. And again, looking to trying to help them, one, ring fence their business, and two, better ring fence our business.
And it's certainly around our neck of the woods. I mean, people that live in the middle of a city or something like that may not be quite as familiar, but there's been certainly over the last year a raft of impacts on farming community and agricultural community, especially where they seem it's almost as if they've not been deemed to be a business. You know, it's sort of almost it's linking too much of personal assets and personal possessions, and sort of going, yeah, but it's a farm. But actually, when you look at the assets and the equipment and all of this kind of thing that they actually have, it's a significant value in terms of plant and machinery that maybe hasn't been supported in quite the same way. So is that something that you have found large amounts of success? I mean, you mentioned the agricultural sector. Has that been one of the drivers? Is that because they sort of don't fit to a traditional business?
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think by dealing with, I mean, through my background, really, I've sort of got working with a lot more to the agricultural side, and you're quite right, and often or not, they work in weird and wonderful ways, and there are challenges there with mortgages, and we have to get, Sarah's amazing on that side. She's able to get into the nuts and bolts, but it's also allowed, through working in that sort of environment and through allowed us to look at other sectors that we could bring into our business. So we're just about to launch Strathon Park Assett Finance, which will be live in the next week or so. And that was really, again, to help with the uptake, because we're frequently asked about, can you help with farm machinery and kit and business to business sorts of things, like financing barns and sheds, and financing farm machinery, financing vehicles, and I really, looking at the business, I thought, well, we're missing a bit of a trick here, given what we do. So I thought, there's no better time really, that the people and the environment we live in now is more geared towards lending. There's not really as much cash around. When you see the price of some of this machinery, I mean, I had a guy come to me the other day for a second-hand tractor, 130 grand. It's crazy amounts of money. So it does seem very natural to us to add that side to the business.
Yeah, and especially if it's fit for purpose, if you can fund or provide finance or financial solutions for, for second hand, for, it's a lot of the stuff. Often we see it with the financial broker side of things, especially on the finance side of brokerage, that it sort of works with and competes against the actual lender. Whereas the lenders actually, especially in certain niches, have zero appetite to fund anything. So it adds to this added problem of, if they won't fund it, where do you get the money from? And actually, if you can have somebody who can source different solutions from multiple providers and people that are upfront and saying it's for agricultural and commercial based, assets or whatever it may be, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to access it.
No, and that's a really good point. I mean, I'm learning more and more about Assett Finance as we go. I thought I knew quite a bit, and I've learned lots over the last few months. And there is actually quite a big market there to actually go off piste. And what you're talking about there, where do you actually get the money from? There's a lot of lenders in the market that you'd know about, and you'd think you go directly to sort of the bank that will just say no. And you can really, go off piste. And there's actually a pot of lenders there that are very good at, without mentioning names, I'm conscious of that, that are very good for working with those sorts of clients.
And it boils down to appetite. Some lenders are very clear on what they'll do. Others will just say, we'll do anything, but just not that. And unfortunately, if you happen to be supporting a sector which is part of just not that bit, it doesn't really help you.
I think another thing, though, that if there'll be a lot of brokers that will agree with this. It's all how it's packaged in the first instance. If you really get to understand your client and your client's circumstances, and they give you all the correct information, and they're very transparent, it makes our job so much easier, and then sourcing them the right deals.
No, it does, and I say, fortunately for yourself, and unfortunately for people on the other end of it, it's a whole world unto itself, and trying to understand the financial markets it's complicated. And at the end of the day, we have day jobs. We might be running a business, we might be doing whatever. We haven't really got time to explore all these things that are hidden under the surface that you've got to dig for just to find a solution. So having people around, and the move into also Assett Finance, I think, is a very shrewd thing, and can see that working very well for you. So as a business, then, where would you say that Strathon Park Financial is different to other providers out there, and what makes you unique?
So what makes us unique? I think that we. So that's a really good question. What makes us unique? I think where our sweet spot is, we're really good at the tricky stuff. We're really, Sarah's amazingly good at what she does, and her team behind her. And I think our real sweet spot is the stuff that normal brokers look at and go, not sure we can do something for that, or that's too much of a headache. And we've grown quite a strong client bank on that. We're going back to your last comments before about clients, that really just look at these things and get headaches and don't really know where to start. We take all that from them. We're very much, you give us a call and we'll just deal with it. So yeah, in answer to your question, I think that's really where we tend to do really well. Yeah. And did you mention about growth? Did I forget that?
Yeah, I think it's where does it take you next, I guess, is the follow up to that. So if you're looking at growth of the business, and as you said, you're just venturing into the Assett Finance side as well as everything else. Roll forward 3 to 5 years. Where do you see your business heading, and what's next that's getting you excited about the next few years?
So where I see us heading, I'm always very much on the front end, looking where we can source new opportunities, looking what good looks like. I tend to speak with a lot of people in the industry quite a lot, and I think the biggest thing for us is working with people within our business, and growing people within our business. Very much so, like within Strathon Park Financial, as we grow, we want to bring in another 4 or 5 protection advisors. We've got room for another easily, 4 mortgage brokers, and we don't, we've learned from past experiences. I mean, we've got over 9 years of ring experience now, and if I hold my hands up and say guilty, I probably I've always been a very driven individual from a sporting background, and I spent 12 years as a National Hunt Jockey, and I probably built too quickly, and I brought lots of brokers in, and we got to 18 brokers at one point, and could I give those brokers the time they needed? Probably not. Did I set them off on the journey really well? Yes, but I could have done more for them.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at future planning and where we want to be, I think one thing we're certainly going to concentrate on is putting the time into the younger people coming through,
Mm-hmm.
developing those people. I think that's a real key sticking point. But also, going on from that, I think you'll see us into the pensions investment space,
Mm-hmm.
certainly by 5 years from now. So you'll probably see us, on the mortgage where we sit today, the Assett Finance, and also you'll see us in the pensions investment space.
So the interesting thing, and we collectively lumped it into, and agriculture and things like that. So given your location, given your background, your history, and being involved with the racing industry, are you providing your services as a niche and empathetic provider to horse racing in the UK?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, obviously you can imagine coming out of racing like I did, had a massive connection, but base, so to speak. I'm still great friends with a lot of people that a lot of people would know, and trainers, etc. And a lot of those are clients.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't want to say we're not. We've got lots of variations of different clients, but we do, however, work very closely within the equestrian world and agricultural world.
Yeah.
A lot of, with the farming side, a lot of friends of mine are farmers, etc. So that's how that's grown. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. It's. I tend to see it as a different thing. I was with a client earlier this week, and in their particular niche, which is a real niche, their biggest driver is to give back to something that's given them so much.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great value and a motivator and a driver for a reason of why you do what you do, is to help people. It's not unlimited to, it's hey, but let's not forget our heritage and who we can support, and then we'll see how that can roll out into other people as well. Why should they be the only ones?
We're doing talks at the moment. I rode with, sadly, he's had the most horrific fall and injuries, and poor Graham Lee. My thoughts go out to him and his family, and it must be. I can't begin to think a terrible time they'll be going through at the moment. But sadly, he suffered a horrific fall just before Christmas at Newcastle. That, I think, has left him paralysed from the neck down. And the Injured Jockey Fund that supports all jockeys to do an absolutely incredible job in putting jockeys back together and supporting them after serious injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And they helped me through some of my serious injuries also. But we're also looking at, as a business, on how can we, sort of do things for them, and there's so many charities out there, worthwhile causes, aren't there? Mm-hmm. But I think really when you look at charities, it's almost to sort of give back to, and that's close to your heart as well. You know, I think children's charities are another one that's big on my radar, children's cancer and stuff like that, and what we can do for and give back to those sorts of things. So I think when we talked about, you know, what does that look like? What do we look like going forward? I think going forward in our next phase is what we can do for local charities in the area, and certainly charities that are close to our heart, and we want to be part of that to give back to those as well.
Absolutely, and not wanting to cheapen it with a dig kind of comment. It's refreshing to hear somebody in finance actually come at this with a soul.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
right.
it's not a bad thing, trust me. After everything else that's sort of gone on in that as an industry, and
Yeah, no, I get that.
so I know a lot of people in that industry, and they know that I mean it with the best, you know, best of intent.
Yeah,
But sometimes, yeah, they have been guilty of approaching this for purely financial decision-based reasons, shareholder-based reasons, rather than the altruistic
yeah, yeah,
of giving back to the community that's served you, you know, through
yeah.
your journey to get to where you are. So that's actually bringing us towards the end of the interview. I'll throw it back to yourself, Miles. Is there anything that you'd like to add or that we've not covered before we wrap everything up?
Yeah, so I think when you said early on in the meeting, like what would be one thing to, you know, to put out there to anyone coming in and starting out, I think, you know, it's hard, isn't it? It's, you know, I think that's the, you know, you think right, you've got it all, you've got it all structured how you want it to look, but you've got to come to terms that it's not going to be as easy as you think it is. You're going to fall over, you're going to cut your knees, you're going to cut your elbows. You just got to keep getting up, and there'll be good days, there'll be bad days, and just keep going and trudging on through it, because it's not easy, but the rewards are great, and you get, you know, I look at it as now I have a career, a business, a job where I go out, I see some amazing people, I sit and have a cup of tea and a biscuit, and I earn money for doing it.
Absolutely, and it's something that came from the super vet Noel Fitzpatrick, where he turned around, and I'll change his language as how he explained it, but he basically said, if you don't care enough, you've already lost.
That's it.
I wasn't quite how he put it, but that's the pre-watershed kind of version that he said. And actually, you know, you succeed because you care so much, rather than you succeed because you just have an idea or whatever. So the values drive the business rather than business creating values, I guess, as a thing. So that does bring us towards the or to the end of the interview. Really would like to thank Miles for sharing his journey and the journey of the business. It's been you know, been really interesting understanding how you've carved out a niche, and really do thank you for sharing that, because it's valuable information for everyone else. So thank you on that. Just remains to be said that if you're like Miles was not so long ago, and thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great to actually record my own video and have my own business put in the spotlight and showcase all our achievements, when we publish these videos, there's always a way of how to get in touch. So please, if you want to showcase your business, just get in touch. We don't bite. We'll take you through the process, and we'll record your very own spotlight interview. So thanks again to Miles. Thanks again to everyone else who's been watching. I've been Ron Maycock, and this has been another of our Business Spotlight interviews. We'll see you soon. Keep smiling.